In this video we're going to look at some of the techniques used for assembling resin miniatures. In many ways it's similar to metal and plastic miniatures, but I think it's actually easier. The first thing we're going to look at is the tools you'll need, which as you can see here is not very many. I like to have a couple of different shaped craft knife blades, a nice straight one and a small curved one. And as with all types of assembly, it's really best to have very clean, fresh blades. It'll go much easier for you. A pair of clippers is very useful for removing the parts off the feeds. You can either have a side cut pair or an end cut pair. And a toothbrush I find really useful for really gently rubbing over the surface of the miniature to remove any little bits of feathering and things like that. And finally, I like to use a piece of abrasive paper. This is wet and dry paper, very, very fine grade. And I don't like to use files for resin because they tend to tear up the surface a little bit. So I remove most of the mold lines with craft knife blades, but finish a little bit with the abrasive paper. But I also use this for just rubbing down carefully on the areas that are going to be joined together. Some people recommend washing resin miniatures to get rid of any mold release that might be on them, but I've never found that necessary. And you know, if you wash them, you have to dry them. It's always a bit of a faff, really. So what I do is I just use this and rub carefully over the areas that are going to be joined, and yeah, they join together very well with that. So next we're going to actually look in detail at one of the miniatures in our range and how we put it together. We're going to look at assembling Himiko, one of the miniatures from the limited edition range. And this is, as you can see, it's a 5-piece, the main body, 2 of these ribbon pieces, and then 2 of these pieces with the ribbon and a sword. And the sort of things we're looking for when we're cleaning up, because that's the first stage, is you can see on the main body piece, there's some sprue pieces that the resin caster uses to feed the resin from one part of the miniature to another. So you have things like that. You have things like these little tiny kind of wispy bits, which are just, it's flash really, wants a better word. And then in some places you'll see a little, you can see or not on the camera, little mould lines. Hopefully there won't be too many mould lines. We're really, really careful on quality, we try to be. So the mould lines should be light, and they're very easy to remove anyway. So on the main body you can see that, and then on the other pieces you can kind of see the same things really, little bits of mould line. This one needs clipping off very carefully off the feed piece, and little wispy bits need brushing off. And again, all these pieces need clipping off, and just kind of a general going over. You sometimes find, I don't know if there are on this miniature, I can't see any, oh, maybe here, there's a tiny, tiny little air bubble, really, really small. And again, we try and minimise that as much as possible, but inevitably, sometimes they do creep in. So that's something else that we'll look at, or all we do then is just a tiny little fill and a smooth on that. So okay, we'll get started on the first piece. I think we'll look at the body piece first. Here's the body piece, and the first thing we're going to do is remove these little feed and injection marks on here. So for that we'll just use a pair of clippers. I'll turn it the other way up so hopefully you can see it a little bit better. Use a pair of clippers and just come nice and close up to the body like that, and then again around on this side. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing, I'm not blocking the shot. Like that. You don't have to get them absolutely close up because you can do the close trimming with a knife. This one here. Okay, like that. And once those are off, I think the next thing I'm going to do is just give it a really quick brush over with a toothbrush, because you can see all the little wispy bits everywhere. So be gentle. Obviously you have to use your common sense here. If the miniature is really, really delicate pieces, don't go scrubbing over it really hard because they will break. But the little pieces here, you can just sort of rub over them until you get them. Like that. This is a good way of hopefully not damaging the miniature. Like that. And it gives you a better sense. Already it looks cleaner with all those little wispy bits are gone. So now we're going to try and get these little pieces off down here. So this is the edge of the injection mark. So sharp blade is always good. Resin's so soft and easy to work with, like I said before, it's easier than metal or plastic. So you can get such a clean line on it, but you do have to be careful that you're not, you know, if I was going to cut this little piece off here and not support this and press down on that, the arm might likely break. So I'll support that on the table and just carefully clip it off like that. Same with the other arm over here where the injection mark hit. I'm just going to take that off like that. That's about it for obvious pieces. The next thing to do is just to go over the surface and try and find little mould lines. And they are kind of hard to find when the castings are clean, but I can see there's up in here there's some little mould lines. So I'm going to switch to, for this piece, I'm going to switch to a curved blade so I can kind of come inside here, and I just scrape, use the point of the blade to scrape. I don't like using files on resin miniatures unless they're really, really fine, because you end up just making more of a texture on the surface. So a little piece like that, and then that's it really. Look down the arms, see if there's any mould lines down there, tiny little bit down there. Maybe that arm as well. And then once you've done that, once you've scraped over, go back with the toothbrush and just carefully go over, and that gets rid of any little bits of feathering that happens sometimes. And I can see there's a mould line down here. It's going to be a bit difficult to get to show you, but I'll try and scrape that one off as well. Again, a curved blade's nice. It's so soft, it's really easy to work with and get the edge nice and sharp. Brush it over again. And I think that's it for the body really. It's a very clean piece. There might possibly be tiny bits like the air bubble we found. I'll have to go back and do a fill, but we'll look at that later. This piece is obviously one of the hands and sword and another of the ribbons, and it's attached to a feed piece. So you have to be a little bit careful. Again, make sure you work down onto a hard surface and hold it steady, because you don't want to break the pieces when you're doing it. So clip it off there and then clip it off like that. So you end up with a piece, and there's a little feed on the sword there. So that hopefully blocking what you can see. Just clip off the end of there. And then again, with pieces like this you really do have to be careful using the toothbrush. So just really, really gently just come in here and get rid of some of that feathering. And now I'll just do a general clean up on it, and we'll come back when I've got these pieces cleaned up. So we're going to assemble the miniature now. All the pieces are cleaned up, and this the right hand and ribbon obviously goes on this side here. Now it's very easy to pin resin if you want to, because the material's so soft. You can drill holes and pin things very easily, but on this particular piece there's 2 points of contact on the arm here and at the back of the neck, so I don't really think it needs pinning, so I'm just going to glue it. And when I'm using super glue, which is the only glue you can really use effectively for resin, I use a piece of, this is greaseproof paper, and it really helps. You put a little blob of super glue on that, it doesn't spread out, it stays in one little place there. So I use a pin to put it on with, a little bit on there, and I'll just glue this one first. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Hopefully in the right place. Just blow gently on the piece, it can help speed up drying. Not quite caught yet. You can use accelerator on resin figures just like anything else, but it's a little hard while I'm holding the pieces together in front of camera to spray some accelerant on it. Okay, so that's just grabbed there. That's roughly in the right place. So what I'll do now is I'll let that dry really thoroughly, and then I'll apply some more glue around the back to this piece here and glue those pieces together. If you try and glue both of them at the same time, there's a little bit of kind of a spring action between those going on, so it'd be difficult to get them both at the same time. So I'll let that dry, and then I'll put the other piece on. Okay, so I've just glued that second contact point on up there now, and as you can see, the fit is good. There's no filling needs doing around here or up there really, so that's all good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach the other pieces, and then we'll come back and have a look at anything else that needs doing. Okay, so here she's assembled. I finished gluing that piece on, and just glued all the other pieces on one by one. This sword arm first did exactly the same. Point of glue there, let that dry, then a point of glue there, and then the back pieces are very simple. They've got a little location lug there that these pieces here fit onto. So that's her done really. There are other things to do. Maybe, like I said earlier, there's a tiny, really tiny little hole there that you could possibly fill with a little bit of green stuff. But I'm not going to cover that in this video. It's really more about resin. So all to do at this stage is to just add it to a base. And obviously, if you want to do the scenic base first, if you want to add that, then you do that first. But in this case, I'm just going to glue it straight on and then base around her. So that's it. There's one more thing I want to cover in this video, so we'll do that next. So the last thing I'm going to look at on this video is quite a common problem on resin miniatures. You can see on this halberd, if I twist it, you can see it's got quite a pronounced bend in it. And this happens when the pieces are brought out of the mould and they're maybe still a little bit soft. When they harden up, they've got a bend in them, but it's really easy to correct. And all you do is you heat the piece with a hairdryer, or some people use hot water, but I like to use a hairdryer because then you don't have to dry the piece afterwards. So all I'm going to do is use this hairdryer right here and heat the piece up. Like that. Hopefully it's hot enough, you can see it is, and then just pull it into position and let it harden. You can blow on it, and when you let go, it stays where you've put it, so the piece is now much straighter. Now with this one I've done it quite quickly, so it's still got a bit of a bend in it, which I can see, but when you're not doing it in front of camera like this, it's very easy to do. Have the hairdryer on quite hot and get the piece so it goes quite soft, and then hold the position you want, and then blow on it so that it's cool naturally, and it'll set in the position you want. Okay, that's it.